Sandra and I have been working on reef water quality projects together since 2008.
And I often think back to how different it would have been if we'd have had the MIP at that time.
The MIP was about demonstrating and repeatability.
The MIP has had a really positive impact on the banana industry, and it has done in many different ways. It's helped connect us to experts and local knowledge.
We've had shed meetings, we've put in monitoring stations, sub-catchment monitoring, to try and understand what's happening.
There'll be no changes or improvements to water quality without behaviour change. And in order to be able to do behaviour change, we've got to understand what drives the grower.
I think the foundational thing for the MIP was really walking the landscape when we got the growers in the room and with a whole lot of maps and really looked at things through their eyes.
We were hearing people probably about 10 years ago, particularly regional people, complaining about the fact that they really weren't getting their information incorporated into some of the decision making. So the way really to do it is to look at it through the eyes of the people who have genuinely walked the landscape. We thought, well, how can we combine the kind of scientific mapping information we had with community information at a regional level?
The breadth of knowledge and experience that they brought, I think, was really valuable to our MIP initiatives in the early stages.
And it really told us where we were even going to put our water quality monitoring, where we were going to try to investigate catchment repair projects. And I think it was also the start of the engagement with those growers.
First, when I was asked to go along to these shed meetings, I was sceptical, I suppose most farmers are, of these. But when I got there, they asked more questions of us. What we thought, we could say, well, have you looked at this? Because we know the lay of the land in that, or we reckon that's what's happened.
We're at a constructed wetland site in the Johnstone catchment. We build a microbial community to promote denitrification. I think for the growers, for starters, it's a peace of mind that they're doing something to mitigate potential pollutants entering the waterways and developing ecosystems on their farm to create a better environment.
On our properties, we've got grass headlands, grass waterways, grass drains. We've put in a wetlands/silt trap, which is performing a lot better than we expected it to.
I think more landholders seeing the results that we're getting from wetland and the keenness of the ones already involved in the project will promote more to come forwards and try and undertake similar practices.
I think the most significant thing that's come from the MIP has been the water quality data.
It's showing that there's something there, and this is where I think the MIP has been successful.
The Department of Environment and Science water quality people came up and trained not only our team, but also I think about 13 local people to help us.
We operate our bigger program for water quality monitoring for the state from Brisbane, but you need more local knowledge, and we fundamentally believe good training leads to good water quality monitoring and the data around it. So when we were asked to train some of the MIP staff, we were quite happy to come up and share our knowledge.
I was working through Mamu, doing a few different projects in the community, and an opportunity came up to do the water quality training. And as my passion's in environmental and land management, I jumped at the opportunity.
I don't think we would have managed to get around all the sites during the heavy rain without a casual sampling team.
We need to start doing our part and try and protect our waterways.
This is where we can start changing things.
There's a bit of a disconnect because, like I said, we operate out of Brisbane. With better data, you get more information, and those local people that take water quality have that local knowledge. You get more pertinent, relevant information.
When we're looking at the water quality data, we're able to say to the grower, okay, these are the blocks that you've got cane on, here's the water quality data that's come from that. We can now look at the drains, here's the water quality data that relates to the drain. We can then move to the streams and see the water quality data that's impacting on the streams.
It's good to see in conjunction with rainfall events, dry periods, different operations on the farm, planting, ground preparation, fertilising, how they coincide with those results that are coming back from the water level.
And this is information that they have never had access to before. And it's also helped us in educating growers. So when they say, well, what's the contribution of nitrogen coming from the rainforest, we can actually tell them what it is. And so that's the way that they're going to learn about what's going on in their farm and what they need to try and do to improve water quality.
The MIP has been able to provide that high resolution data to explain that process, to provide the model to growers to show how the system works.
Because if you're not all on the same page about how the system works, well then what chance have you got of all working together to affect an outcome?
We were getting listened to. That's the feeling I get. We sit down and bounce ideas off each other. That's how I reckon you learn.
Some of the techniques that have been used in the shed meetings to convey the message are really impressive that the MIPS team have come up with, and I myself will try and adapt some of them where I can. What I think it's really done is build trust in the science and the water quality aspects and the science around that.
Some of us had 40 years experience of farming, but we could relate that in with what the MIP had to show us, to help us improve our farming practices.
I would think in the long term, having that model clearly displayed in high resolution, as the MIP has done, will be a wonderful tool, something that we'll be able to go on and use for many years to explain the process and probably build on this process as well.
I hope that the processes that we've put in place, things like the extension network, will continue, that there'll be someone who can pick up that coordinating role.
Having that relevant data can really change somebody's attitude, and so I think my attitudes have also changed, that we might need more relevant data to get this story across, and instead of me saying no, we don't need to do that kind of monitoring, I'm more open to these different styles of monitoring.
We had industry organisations like cane growers and ABGC work together, and I think that will continue into the future.
And we saw those growers come together in the shed meetings too.
It's really, in the end, about supporting the grower to have a more efficient, more profitable farm.
We want to improve sustainability and we want to improve water quality. And somewhere we need to meet that everyone wins.
The idea that, for instance, if we look at nitrogen loss out through the landscape is somehow a reduction on the farm, it's a reduction if it's lost, but if we can find processes to keep it on the farm, to get a bigger crop, that helps the grower and helps the industry overall. And that's really what I think we're all working together to try and do.
The biggest learning for me is that the grassroots, place-based approach is critical in a project this size. It's really important to involve the landholders and the end users of a project in the design, and to keep revisiting that design and make sure we're still on track.
Where do we go from here? Well, I would hope that the information that's being collected is provided in a way that we don't slip backwards, that we're not pointing fingers at each other, that we're actually working together. So that's what I hope the legacy of this will be moving forward.